Justin here. Ooh, how's that for some dramatic lighting, huh, folks? Good evening and welcome to another good-natured hour. Um, Boy, that looks kind of creepy behind us here, doesn't it? I'm actually out in the on the veranda behind Pottawatomie Community Center tonight. Um, and have several things here I'd like to share with you. Just wondering if I should scooch a little closer here to the existing light. Um, well, that's a little bit, now I look like a floating head. um, One of the reasons I wanted to come over here was I wanted to check something that has been a perennial delight, I would say, for at least the last 3 or 4 years, and it might have even been on before that, and I just didn't know about it. It's in front of the community center, so local folks, Pottawatomie Community Center at Pottawatomie Park. Um, in front of the building, there is a large white oak tree that has been kind of sealed in by parking lot, sidewalk. The only semi-natural substrate around it is wood chips. And so needless to say, the oak is hanging in there, but I suspect that it's starting to weaken just a little bit. The thing that has been coming up there for a number of years is, I'll show you what's left of it here. Let's see, how do I hold this so you can see it? See if I move it over here under the light, and then I take the camera over so you can see it. You see that? Ah, that's better. This is a some people call it sheep's head. I've always called it let me get this box out of the way. We don't need this box yet. I've always called it hen of the woods. It's one of our fall mushrooms. It's one of our edible fall mushrooms. All right, come on, Pam, you can do this. There we go. And it would be a lot brighter in color had somebody not kicked it there. That helps a little bit. It's dried out, severely dried out on the top. I'm going to take a piece off here so you can see what it's supposed to look like. On here. There's a piece. So it really does. It has a mouthfeel similar to chicken, and it has a flavor similar to chicken. Of course, isn't that the joke? What does it taste like? Oh, chicken. There's some of it there. It's not like a full chicken breast. That would be one of the other edible fall fungi, which is chicken of the woods. But that looks completely different. It's orange tinged in yellow. It grows in larger chicken breast size pieces. This is much smaller. I am debating whether I should take some home and try it. Now the top part here is, uh-oh. There we go. The top part, as I said, is really dried out. And it's very dark on the top. And it just, I don't even know if rehydrating would save it at this point. Once again, I'm getting nature on my keyboard. But it's something you might choose to go out and look for. Now, technically speaking, you can't harvest mushrooms, even things that regrow like this, on public property. I have asked in the past here at Pottawatomie, and nobody has challenged me on it, and I've been able to take small pieces. This thing would be way too big for one person to eat, although I think you can freeze it. Oh, that actually worked pretty well. I should have done that to start with. This, by the way, this isn't a hyphae or anything. This is just a piece, which gives you an idea too of how finely you can shred it. So it does function in recipes. Oh, uh-oh. I've been wondering all day if I'm losing my voice. It does function very similarly to shredded chicken. But anyway, if you know of some private woods that have some aging or somewhat damaged oak trees, or if you go to a state park, because the state of Illinois allows foraging of certain um, foods on public land. Mushrooms are one, berries, nuts. You can't dig anything up if you're taking away the roots of something that's going to prevent the plant from coming back. That's not allowed, but you can definitely forage for mushrooms on state-owned land. So keep that in mind too. I think these will be um, going on for a while. And this one, gosh, this one probably weighs, even though it's kind of dried out, I would say it weighs a good 5 or 6 pounds. People sometimes find 10-pound hen of the woods. I think the record is something like 50 pounds. I mean, just enormous. These things grow. It's called, one more thing before we move on, it's called hen of the woods because of how the fungus grows. This is supposed to resemble the feathery bottom of a hen, big fat hen. Yeah, tastes like chicken. All right, I will put this somewhere safely out of the way. Put it over there. And let's move on. So if you saw or were able to read the email that contained the link for tonight's program, I mentioned that we're starting to gear up for another visit down to WGN. We go about every other month to the TV studios down at 2501 West Bradley Place. Any of you who grew up watching Bozo probably have that address ingrained in your brain. But we go down there and do little nature segments on different items of interest. This one, with Halloween coming up, we kind of bounced around a little bit between something Halloween themed like bats or spiders, but we did actually do spiders a while back, and we kind of scared some of the on-air talent, so probably won't be approaching that subject again anytime soon. But actually, Jenny Santos, who's the administrative assistant to our director here at the Park District, she came up with a fabulous idea. Jenny goes down with us quite often. She'll go down with us to the station. And she said, what if we did animals in disguise? You know, everybody dresses up at Halloween. What do the animals do? So that was the basis or the genesis for the idea. And we've been fine-tuning it now for about a week. And I wanted to share with you the direction that we're going in. I thought maybe some of you might have some ideas. I know, Laura, when I was talking about it with you, you mentioned spittlebugs. I'm like, that's a perfect one. So I'll show you what our take on spittlebugs is going to be. And again, open for suggestions. I've got lots of props here on the table, but it does relate to some of the our usual slideshow method of presenting. So I'm going to be switching back and forth between our slides and the props that we have. And anything you see, shout it out or make a comment. Either way in the chat section, that would be fine. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead here, and every week, how long have we been doing this? 3 years? Every week I look at this screen and I go, okay, no, how do I share? But here it is. I'm going to share this screen. There's our Park District commercial. There's ample opportunity to explore the Fox Valley area on our trail system. And yes, we have skate parks. Let's go. Let's make these full sized. Here we go. So This is a little creature. I'm going to move this bar out of the way. This is one example of a few species of tortoise beetle that we have in this area. My favorite one I didn't have a good photo of, and the online images, and I always worry about copyrights, and the stock photo service that we use didn't have any North American uh, tortoise beetle species. My favorite one is the golden tortoise beetle. And it really does, when it has liquid trapped underneath the elytra or the wing covers on its back, it really does look like a drop of gold. The thing is, if it gets frightened, it will get rid of that liquid, and then it goes to actually a color similar to this, kind of a reddish color. Looking at this, you might be thinking it looks like a ladybug, and the Google Photos, where I store these photos at, thought it was a ladybug too, which is why I couldn't find it for a while. I was searching for tortoise beetle. So I went and I made sure I put some labels in. This is called the Argus tortoise beetle. Some references call it the milkweed tortoise beetle. But I looked at a bunch of different sources, including Bug Guide and bugguide.net, our fabulous online resource. And they say that this insect does not feed on milkweed. So I'm not sure where that milkweed reference came from. This particular type of tortoise beetle, as well as the others, a couple of the others that we have in this area, they feed on bindweed or members of the morning glory family. I know sometimes they can go to town on vines we have in our garden, like sweet potato vines too, but they really do help control, if they're present in enough numbers, they help control the bindweed that can wrap around and plague some of our outdoor plantings. Well, this is the adult, and they're fine. They're interesting little creatures, but where the intrigue really kicks up a notch or two, look at the larva. So the larva, let's get rid of this here. The larva have these decorations, shall we say, on the back. These are two young tortoise beetle larvae that we found out in the Hickory Knolls natural area. The junk, the stuff, the what looks like trash on the back, that's exactly what it is. These beetles have two little structures, almost like like a forked tail coming off the back of their body, and they use that to collect all kinds of yucky stuff. Their own frass, the scientific word for insect poop, or their own shed skins, their exuviate. So those pile up over time on those hooks, and they form this conglomeration that I like to think of as a poop parasol. Now, I have to be a little careful here because this visual aid here is still drying and it needs to be painted. I'm going to stop the share here. So what we're going to do, I need to get some paint that is sort of greenish yellow or yellowish green color to fix this model up a little bit. But let's stop the share. I was looking through our collection of plastic bugs, and I found this one. This is a big, I think it's supposed to be a type of stag beetle. It's not one we have around here. It might be a tropical stag beetle. But I thought, boy, it's got some of the parts we need here. They're just not quite in the right places. So got the snippers out, and I took these mandibles off the front of this model. There we go. Snipped these off, snipped off the antennae, made the legs a little shorter. And then I put the mandibles at the back of the other stag beetle that we had. So here's our work in progress. Like I said, I need to paint it still. I think I've got some plastic friendly paints at home. But we're going to make this into the tortoise beetle larva model. There. And oh, you know what? I can put my phone on this. Hello. Till we get our own lighting crew, we're going to have to kind of fake it here. Well, you can kind of see. There's the forked on the bottom. There's the head. There's the shorter legs. And then for the frass collection part, we're going to take a drink umbrella. Remember the poop parasol part? We're going to take a little paper drink umbrella and affix it here to the back. Have it adorned with lots of bits of, oh, it's going to look like frass, but we're going to use tissue paper and that, I don't know what you call it, that crinkly paper that you use, those shreds of paper that you use when you're wrapping a gift or packing a gift. So we're going to pile all that up on the back to make the poop parasol of the tortoise beetle. So it decorates itself, it disguises itself so that it can avoid being eaten. If we go back here to our photo, this looks very unattractive, especially to the eyes of a predator. And it's pretty good disguise. We are not in any danger of running out of tortoise beetles. So clearly they're surviving. They're doing well. This works. That's one animal who disguises itself. Well, let's see, where do we go next? So this one, I believe we've talked about this in the past. This is a photo, again, from our stock photo service, but it's an aster. It's pretty sure this photo is a United States photo and probably an Eastern United States photo because this looks very similar to some of the asters we have here. We have in our midst a caterpillar known as a camouflage looper. And loopers are inchworms. They get that name by the way they loop themselves along. You know, their hind legs come up to their forelegs, and they make that big arch, and they just kind of loop-de-doop along. So you can see, or I don't know, can you see where the camouflage looper is in this photo? What these creatures do is take they take bits of plant material and they adhere them to their back. I believe they use the silk that pretty much all caterpillars are able of producing. They use that silk to attach bits of the plant to their body. If we zoom in here, becomes a little more obvious, and it's in its classic looping shape. It also looks like it's time to change disguises because you know, after these bits of plant parts are picked, they're going to dry out. So every day or two, the camouflage looper has to change its disguise, change its clothes. It's kind of interesting, rather than sitting up here on the purple petals the way it might if the vegetation was still fresh, it's over here towards the stem where it again blends in. Maybe it's just a coincidence, I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool though. It's not smack in the middle of the petals the way we sometimes see camouflage loopers that have just recently changed their clothes. So we'll show that picture and give that explanation. And then this is where I would like to get some input from you all if you have it. And if not, that's fine too. But so this was, you might remember this was a sandhill crane that made a bad decision, or maybe was just an innocent bystander when a car went by. This occurred out near Nelson Lake Marsh at Dick Young Forest Preserve. It was along I believe it was along Nelson Lake Road, a resident out there had become accustomed last spring to seeing two cranes coming to his bird feeder. And the morning when there was only one, he thought, uh-oh, it's a little too early to be nesting. So he went out and looked, and sure enough, this bird was by the side of the road. So we're actually taking it to the taxidermist. What I wanted to ask you though is if you've heard this about sandhill cranes. Now the supposedly the typical plumage or the typical color of the feathers on the back of a sandhill crane is this gray color here. But they have been known. I know the more western populations, like the ones that are out in Nebraska, have been observed picking up iron-rich soil and working it through their feathers to put a rusty cast on the feathers. And I can kind of see it. So here, let's go to the next slide. Well, actually, let's zoom in on this one first. So there's some rusty brown here and here, but then there's the typical gray color here. So if you all want to weigh in the chats on your opinion, if what we're seeing here is truly feathers that have been stained, or if this is actually part of the natural plumage of the eastern population. I'm still researching that. So this one's kind of, it can end up on the cutting room floor if need be, but if not, it's a neat way of how an animal would disguise itself. Here, I did take some some pictures of the feathers. I don't know if I had the lighting quite right, though. It doesn't, to me, it looks like that is just the color of the feather, but you know, if you look at it, it does, there's some gray here, and then it turns brown on the end. I think we have another picture. This is one from a little bit farther out, but we could zoom in some. So there's some rusty brown here. The other question I had, I don't know, I suppose they could reach this part of their body up here towards the head. If we go back, let's go back to the, where's our initial bird here? You can't really see how high up that brownish coloring goes. Everything we can see here, though, would certainly be reachable by the bird and its bill full of mud. Yeah, if you've heard about it, if you've actually seen birds doing it, this actually, let's zoom in here. This looks quite rusty here on the back. I would love to hear about your observations. All right. Well, these feathers look like they could use a molt, don't they? There's some wear and tear on the ends. Of course, maybe that happened when the bird was being transported over to the nature center. Here's another view of those feathers. Let's zoom in. All right, so that potentially is another animal that disguises itself by putting some coloration. Yeah, that looks kind of stained there, doesn't it? Here, it's not very even. All right, let's move on. So this, you might recognize. I love birds that are easy to identify. Here's our little ruby-throated hummingbird sitting in her nest, which is made, it's lined with plant down, which is held together with spider silk, and then it is decorated on the outside. It is camouflaged with the use of lichens. So I'm going to stop the share here, and I'm going to hold up this lichen covered piece of bark as an example. Now, this isn't really the animal itself disguising its own body, but it is disguising its nest and therefore protecting not only itself but also its young. And I thought that was kind of cool. A lot of birds' nests are somewhat camouflaged just because they're up in the trees and they're surrounded by leaves and they're mostly neutral colors. You know, robins make their nests out of grass and mud. actually the blue-gray gnatcatcher is another bird that uses lichens to stick around the outside and help disguise or camouflage its nest. But to get away from focusing solely on insects, I thought it might be good to insert some other examples here. So this is another one. It could stay, it could go, but I thought it was kind of cool and might work. Plus, it's got a visual aid. Um, all right, let's head back here. What is next on the list? Okay, Laura, this was thanks to you. I completely forgot about our friends, the spittlebugs. This was one of several photos that I took last spring over at Delnor Woods. And if you're not familiar with spittlebugs, you can walk, down a path and think, my goodness, who did that to that plant? That is absolutely disgusting. And I'm kind of anxious to see this. This does seem like something the morning news crew would jump on. Spittle is a funny word, and then what this looks like, I think they might be having some fun with this. So, what this is though, this is actually the immature stage of a gosh, is it a plant hopper? The little bug disguises itself inside those bubbles. So this is plant hoppers, leaf hoppers, tree hoppers, all those hopper insects. They feed on they feed on plant juices. And what happens to create the spittle is they use their hind legs, kind of like uh, beaters or whisks, and they beat up the plant juice. So remember, they are feeding on a completely liquid diet. So so we say their excretions are also liquid, and they use their legs to whip that substance up into this froth, and then they are protected on the inside. So for this, I went back to the box of bugs, and we did not have any leaf hoppers or spittle bugs in the collection. What we did have were these little plastic cicadas, which actually they're not terribly closely related, but I believe they're in the same order as the plant hoppers. They feed on plant juices too. They have a piercing and sucking mouth part. So their body shape, even though they're much larger than plant hoppers, the body shape is similar. Thing is, plant hoppers, especially the immature phase, they don't have these prominent wings. But you know what? These come off. So we had a few of these. So I took the wings off, and can't really see in this dim light, but I made the eyes red because the spittle bug's eyes always, that's probably the first thing you see when you start to peer through that spittle. You'll see those red eyes looking back. And then it was time to figure out the spittle part. Now, Laura, I know you suggested bubble wrap, and that might be what we end up going with, but I was at the nature center yesterday, and if there's one thing we have a lot of in the basement, it's kid toys. And this is one of them. This is bubbles, for blowing bubbles. And I was thinking, if we take some of the, oh, the wand is in there too. If I can get that. All right, Pam, focus. So got some bubble liquid in here. I'm going to use a whisk, and I'm going to beat it up like you would expect to see a spittle bug doing. All right. And then we are going to cover our spittle bug. Oh, that worked out pretty well in bubbles. So yeah, I think that'll work out okay. I tell you, I don't know how this bubble stuff is, but it doesn't smell particularly pleasant. I don't know if this stuff goes bad. It works for this purpose though. It's making some nice. Oh, I don't want to drip that on the keyboard. It's making some nice spittle for our bug. Um, but yeah, that I think should serve as an illustration of what these bugs do. And remember to look for them. I took these pictures at Delnor Woods in the middle of May. That's about the usual timing for seeing those spittle bugs. Boy, you know what? When I was gluing the back on the tortoise beetle model, I was using Gorilla super glue. I got some on my hands. Now it feels like I got some kind of skin disease. Anyway, all right, let's move on to our next creature. Again, when I get that on the keyboard here, let's see what else nature has in terms of disguises. Let's share our screen again. And we're gonna go back here. Let's zoom back down. Yeah, spittlebugs. That's a great suggestion, Laura. I appreciate you coming up with that. Oh, forgot I put so you guys could actually see what they look like. There's the tiny little plant hopper. Let's zoom in. It's at an angle. You can't really see the red eyes. They're over here, but they're small little creatures feeding exclusively on plant juice. I think this might have been either a goldenrod or an aster that it was feeding on. That's kind of where we tend to see them. Yeah, I might show that picture too. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. The other thing is when we go down and do these segments, we only have about 4.5 minutes. So whatever, I'm stretching this out into almost an hour, but always have to be mindful of the time too. But that's the little creature that is inside this lovely pile of spittle. There were actually several in here, as I recall. When I put them back, I tried to cover them back up again with their bubbles so they could live to see another day. It also helps, besides disguising them, hiding them from predators, it also helps them keep moisture in their bodies. So drying out is a big threat to insects, especially young ones like that. All right, so here, now this is not a good-natured photo. It is a stock photo, but I thought it was pretty cool. This is a caddisfly larva. And caddisflies are, oh gosh, there's hundreds of different kinds across the United States and around, I think there's thousands if we go around the world, but they are kind of like the caterpillars of the aquatic world. They live in the water. And you know, caterpillars on land, they are, a lot of them, if they don't have a thick coating of hair, they are pretty important items of prey for a lot of different insects. They're easy to grab. They don't have a lot of defenses. They have a lot of good protein inside. Baby birds especially benefit from the soft caterpillar bodies. Well, in the water, caddisflies have a similar sort of a thing going on. Their bodies are very soft. So the different families of caddisflies have come up with different ways of disguising themselves, building structures to help protect that soft body. So this is a type of case-making caddisfly that uses little bits of stone and sand, and they stick it together. They glue it together with substances that their body excretes, and they make this tube that they are able to remain mobile within. They can walk around and carry this little house on their back. If they're frightened or scared, or if a predator comes along, they can zip back inside, and all you see is like this little tube of rocks. Now there's a company online. that has found the case-making abilities of the caddisflies to be a way to make a little money. A couple of entomologists out in, I think it's West Virginia, came up with a company many years ago called Wildscape Jewelry. Let's tell you what, since we're on here, let's just go over and see if they are still in business before I go promoting them. Um, you know what? I'll just do caddis jewelry. You can actually, here we go. So you can go to Wildscape and you can actually buy jewelry made by the caddisfly. Yeah, they're still in business. Good. I had heard about them. I actually bought a pair of their earrings when I was out in Las Vegas. Not on the strip. This was at one of the natural areas outside of Las Vegas proper. But what they do is they raise caddisflies in stream tanks, and the substrate, instead of being like just your average rocks and sand, they use ground up gemstones. You probably saw that one was made of opal. Here's one that's made of turquoise. They're super cool. So besides talking about the case making abilities, Jenny is going to wear a pair of caddisfly earrings. I actually let the holes, my pierced ear holes, grow closed so I can have them redone. Wasn't real happy with, they were kind of crooked. So anyway, Jenny will demonstrate how this can be used as jewelry. And maybe you want to check this out too. Wildscape. Let's go up here. Wildscape.com. It's earrings here, but they also have other things, bracelets. I thought they did like tie bars and stuff too. Wow, these are kind of cool. Caddisfly. All right. Again, I gotta focus. I love their logo. Jewelry made by caddisflies. There's a little worm at work, putting the stones away. Cool site. You might want to check it out. For our purposes, though, it's another animal that disguises itself. So, in addition to caddisflies that make their can disguise themselves with rocks and stones, we have around here these pond-dwelling caddisflies, ponds and wetlands. And I tell you, this is just really remarkable. This was a caddisfly we found a few years ago out in one of the wetlands behind Hickory Knolls. And it looked, so this was in the springtime. I would say this is, we were looking for salamander eggs, so probably end of April, beginning of May. And looking in through the water's surface, you see these bits of, this is cattail leaves here. Here's some duckweed. And you see this all over because that's, it's plant detritus. That's what makes the wetland soil so rich, is it breaks down. So, but then the more you stare into the water, the more you notice that some of these plant bits are moving. And it's not because the water has a current. I mean, sometimes if it's spring fed, there might be a little current coming up from the bottom, but a lot of these would have definite directions. Some of them were actually up at the surface of the water. And sure enough, these are a type of caddisfly that's adapted to living instead of in a stream like the rock case building caddisflies. These guys live in still water, and they take all these plant parts and they stick them together and have this marvelous bit of camouflage. Now, something I don't think we'll do on Friday, but something I thought you might be interested in. So we found this in early spring. Later that year, I want to say this was, let's see if it'll tell us. Oh, I just uploaded it, so it won't. I think in my file somewhere I have a date. We're going to say this was sometime in midsummer. This creature landed on me as I was walking into the Hickory Knolls, the nature center. And I looked at it, and at first I thought it was a moth, and I'm like, no, 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 that's not a moth. Look at these. It's got segmented antennae. It's got these really prominent eyes. Its body, we zoom in here. Well, we can see it on the legs. Its body is covered with hair. And its wings, if we could zoom in on that, yeah, we'd probably need a magnifying glass for that. The wings, instead of being covered with scales, are covered with hair. This is actually a really big caddisfly. So caddisflies, again, local folks, I know you know these guys, even if you don't know them by name. Caddisflies are the little brown, they look like little brown moths, and they just cover things throughout the downtown area as we have periodic emergences starting in late spring and going on throughout the summer. They come out by the tens of thousands, the hundreds of thousands, sometimes the really big ones. There's millions of caddisflies coming out and flying around. Well, this is another type of caddisfly. This, I'm pretty sure, is what these caddisflies mature into. It's good size. It was over an inch long, much, much larger than the smaller brown caddisflies that we see here coming out of the Fox River. But just now you know. Something fun to look for in the spring are those cases, and then if you're lucky, you might see the adults come summertime. And is that, yeah, I think that is the end of that. Now, there was one other, shall we say, item I was thinking of bringing along, and it's it's something we talked about a week or two ago, and it's that Polyphemus caterpillar that we found. In fact, if I go, let's go back. I'm going to share the screen. Actually, you don't have to watch me click through all this stuff. Couple of weeks ago, Bonnie, I don't know if you're on tonight, but friend Bonnie and I were out looking for the white walnut that always eludes me, the butternut tree. Bonnie has an extensive botany background, and she thought maybe with 2 sets of eyes, we'd be able to track down the butternut tree that's in my neighborhood. And we weren't successful at that, but we were able to find this caterpillar. All right, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to share the screen. Or am I? There we are. You guys were watching me that whole time. All right, let's share one last time. So here's the caterpillar. And then I brought it home in a lunch bag. And overnight, the little caterpillar got busy. When I came into the kitchen in the morning, I saw that the bag was all wet, which means the caterpillar had voided or emptied its system out. Caterpillars don't want to go into pupation with a full gut because if their last meal stuck around too long and started to rot, that could produce some deadly byproducts. So they flush themselves out, and then they set about creating their cocoons. So I don't know. You think a cocoon might be another form of how animals disguise themselves? I actually still have the cocoon, and I could bring it. It's really, especially when you put, instead of having it here in the plastic bag or paper bag, if you put it in amongst a bunch of dried leaves, it's very effective camouflage. I was thinking too, it would be a nice way to sort of remind people to leave their leaves so they don't rake away these little creatures. The Polyphemus moth is pretty remarkable. I think I've got a picture of it too. And it has its own little things, but Jenny had made a good point. She said, instead of talking about all the markings animals have that they can use as disguises or as, means of tricking a predator, let's stick with things they actually do, that they actually, build or add to their bodies. in order to disguise themselves. So uh that's what we've got. I'm gonna stop the share again. Oh, you know what? Got one more thing here. Just to get our point across. Let's stop the share. I thought it might be good if we disguised ourselves too. So I dug these out. I haven't worn these in, oh gosh, I don't know, 40 years. I used to have these in college. I'm not exactly probably part of a Halloween costume, but anyway, humans disguise themselves as well. Could be how we start the segment out. We'll have to wait and see. But now that I can actually see, let's see. We had a couple of comments here. Let's see what we've got. Not yet. There we go. K-head springs, cranes all spring to fall in the neighborhood. The male left an 8-inch feather, which was light tan to light gray throughout the whole feather. So yeah, I read, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the blog called The Prairie Ecologist, Chris Helzer. That's if you're into reading nature blogs, that's a really, really good one. He makes some really cool observations. And he's the one that provided the detailed description of sandhill cranes picking up that iron-rich soil and rubbing it into the feathers. And I guess around here, I remember when we were building Hickory Knolls, our interior designer that spec'd all the colors and materials for the inside of the building specifically went with this sort of grayish brown color for the carpeting, because she said that when people track mud in, the color of mud in our area will match the carpet. So we were already, before we even opened, we were planning on the carpet getting trashed, but in a way that would blend in. And it wasn't a deep rusty red. It was rusty brown. It was, it's kind of a light grayish, and kind of the color of sandhill crane feathers. So yeah, that one we'll have to do some more research on. I don't know about sandhill cranes decorating their feathers, but there's a website with a good photo of the cranes without coloring. Not one to include cranes, since the other examples are bugs. Yeah, and that's where I'm kind of teetering back and forth here. Should it be all bugs, or should we? So I was also trying to come up with a mammal that disguises itself, besides humans and in our disguises. But that might be, and time is always a consideration too, because those 4 minutes go by really fast, and especially if we get distracted, which often happens, as you've seen even here. Yeah, it might be a good idea to just stay focused on bugs. I'm actually meeting with Jenny tomorrow to fine tune everything too. I said I would bring some feedback for her, but that's a good point. Maybe it's too much of a stretch to bring the birds into it. Bumblebee and praying mantis costumes on sale on Amazon. Well, it's Julie dressed up as a bumblebee for Halloween a few years back. The one idea we had, because I've got not one and not two, but 3 different versions of the Sasquatch costume that when we used to do a program out at the Nature Center called Gone Squatchin', where we'd have people come out after dark and try to find the Bigfoot in the woods. We've got, and we talked, Jenny and I had talked about wearing those costumes as part of the segment. And then thought, well, like it's kind of hard to talk with the mask on. But Sasquatches are the ultimate masters of disguise because, no one's ever really seen one. They could be hiding in front of us in plain sight and we wouldn't even know it. So, maybe you'll check those costumes out, and see what we've got there. That would certainly fit with the insect theme. Um, does anybody have anything else for the good of the group? If not,
Have the Sasquatch outfits dry cleaned first.
yes,
They're a
they,
little stinky.
they have been, well, that was probably the best $75 we spent. The nature center thing. Do you have personal experience, Laura? Were you,
No, I kind of said maybe somebody else could wear it this.
well, yeah, not only was there the years with that program when it was, very, very warm. We always did it about this time of year. It was usually in the weeks approaching Halloween. And we had some nice warm evenings. And then you put that costume on and then, you animate, you jump around and it can get pretty steamy inside pretty fast. I think we did throw it in the washer a time or two. It's full of burrs and beggar's ticks and stick tights, all of the little seeds that are in the woods at this time of year. We thought it added to the realism of it.
Adds to your whole, hiding and, if
Well,
it has furs and things.
one of the things we have too is they call them ghillie suits. They're those, it's like a camouflage suit, but it's shaggy so that it fits in with the brush and things like that. If we had some, and I'll talk to Jenny about this tomorrow. I don't know if any of the park district facilities have any like fake ficus trees or something that we could use, and we could come out of the greenery in our disguises. That might be kind of fun. And the ghillie suit doesn't smell as bad as the Sasquatch suits do. Diane, if you stick with bugs, you could definitely wear one of those headbands with the antennae. Oh yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't cover our mouths up. And I know we've got a couple of pairs of those at the nature center. I'm going out there in the morning for a meeting, so maybe I'll check those out too. Good suggestions, guys. I appreciate that. And that's kind of a look behind the scenes at Good Natured. I was looking as I was gathering the thoughts for tonight. I always like to include current happenings, and that's what's been going on lately. Next week we'll get back on track. Hold on, I think we're off next week. I believe the 24th is a bye week for Good Natured. I can check that real fast.
I think you're right.
Is that there was no?
Yeah.
I think it goes, I think it's the fourth Thursday of every month, which a lot of times is the last Thursday of the month. But since October is a long month, and since we started the first day of the week, whenever that was, I think it ended up being the fourth Thursday instead of the last Thursday. Yeah.
I'm looking at my calendar. It's definitely there's no meeting next Tuesday.
Great. And since I'm going to do one more screen share. All right, go back here. This is something that I believe some of you might know about, but we haven't made a big announcement yet. Our marketing department has actually streamlined the reservation, or not the reservation process. You still have to go through all the steps in Peak, but if you go to stcnature.org, that's the Hickory Knolls website, stcnature.org, and you scroll down just a wee tiny bit. Look at this, Good Natured Hour. Click on that, and you're into the registration system. So I thought that was nice of them, because all the confusion, all the trouble that we we seem to have getting registrations accomplished. So yeah, it's an easy access point, stcnature.org. Go down to Good Natured Hour. And since we're there, you probably saw, it'll come back again in just a second. Again, for local folks, if you're planning a trip out to the Nature Center, don't get your hopes up too high of what you might see, because it is very much under construction. The front desk is moving, which is wonderful. We've wanted to do that since we opened the building. We thought it was a dumb spot for the nature, for the all right, let's go through for the front desk to be. So here's where the front desk was, and it's now moving in this general direction towards, let's go back, sorry grandma, grandma's the bearded dragon. The Nature Center front desk is now going to be where people come in, so they can be greeted right away, and they won't have to walk halfway through the building to get their questions answered. So yeah, lots of dust, lots of noise, expected to be completed by January though. So fingers crossed they're going to stay on schedule. And hold on, let's go back. I'm going to stop the share again. Come on. Am I going to stop the share again? All right. Oh, Phil. Attend the recent urban coyote fox river otter presentation through Friends of the Fox River. Have you noticed any otters in the fox? Phil, that's a great question. In Hope Springs Eternal, I believe it was the summer of 2021, and I'll say this was not me, but this was Chris Anker, who is the gentleman who has been front and center. He worked, unless he may be retired now, but he was the wildlife biologist that was on the urban coyote research project, as well as the urban river otter research. And he yeah, he lives here in the Chicago suburbs. He was in St. Charles with his wife. They were going out to dinner one night, and he said they walked over the Main Street Bridge and looked down, and all the, the fishermen are below the dam. Kills me. They always say, yeah, we need to save the dam because that's where all the fish are, right below the dam. Well, it's because they can't get above the dam. But anyway, not going to get political about that. The there was a river otter eating a fish on a rock below the Fox River Dam. And that was the same summer that a few people said that they saw a river otter just a little south of there, south of the Illinois Bridge in St. Charles. It kind of, if you know where the pedestrian bridge is, there was an otter sighted there as well. And this was always in the evening or after dark that they were being seen. Those are the most reliable, though not terribly recent. It's 2 years ago now that those occurred. But there's also been there, so we have an actual picture of an otter that was up. And again, this was not recent. This was, I think, even pre-pandemic, but it was up on the river just upstream of the bike bridge by Tecawitha Woods and John Doerr. There was a local resident who saw this otter. It stuck around for 4 or 5 days. Seemed to be having some good luck there, catching things to eat. And it would, like otters do, it was kind of playing in the roots of the silver maples that line that stretch of the water. So they have been seen, but not recently and not with regularity yet. But like I said, I'm always hopeful if the water quality continues to improve, that otters will be a more common sight. I think that would be so cool. Yeah, good question. I'm the one who talked to them about that. All right, let's go.
Yes,
down.
I did. I talked to them about changing that because I said nobody can ever find the website
Oh,
to sign up for tickets.
yes, Erica. Yes, then that would be because Erica is our marketing manager. So
She
thank
was
you.
really nice. Yes.
Well, and she wants to make things. So it's funny because Erica, she views things as a marketing person, and she knows, like, she puts everything together so she can always find everything. But I think it was helpful for her to have you point out that it's not always the easiest thing to find. So appreciate you doing that, Chris. So now
You
all you
are
got to
very
remember is our
welcome.
website. Thanks. And Jerry, what time will be on the air? 9:40 is usually when they stick us on, and that is always pending developing or breaking news. Something big happens, we might get bumped. But 9:40, and it's that 9 to 10 o'clock hour. They're always looking for things to put on the air, and they're very nature friendly there. So that's nice. They're managing a group in Lake County. Yeah, Lake County, and there had been, because Chris Anker had done a learn from the experts talk on otters. I think that was also 2021 or maybe early 2022. And there was a family that was living in the lake at Crabtree Nature Center up in what is that? South Barrington, somewhere up a little bit north of Algonquin Road. So yeah, they're in the area. And I think if our waters continue to improve, I think it's going to be totally possible to see them around here. Alrighty, folks. We are now officially past our hour time. Really appreciate you sticking it out. Stop the share one last time. Appreciate you staying up a little bit past bedtime tonight to give some really good feedback, ask some good questions. We will not be back next week with more good nature, but we will be here in 2 weeks, Halloween night, for more good nature. I'll see you then. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Pam.
Thanks,
Bye.
Pam.
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Pam.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Pam.